Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of Diplomacy Talks with Samin. And today we have with us our guest, Mr. Shimanto Haque. Hello sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a privilege for being a part of your show, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
So, though almost everyone knows you, so can you please still give introduction about yourself?
Okay. So basically, I am what I call myself is a NUN enthusiast. I started my NUN journey back in 2015, but before that, I was affiliated with different foundations and organizations, and working into different social service programs. But I started my MUN in 2015 with um, being a delegate, and that was the start. And till now, I have done more than, I believe, around 55 to 60 MUNs, and I was also privileged to serve as the Secretary General of House of Youth Dialogue Model United Nations 2019.
Oh, that's a lot of MUNs. So sir, we will simply jump on the topic now, which we had, that was the current situation of the Rohingya crisis. So though this situation was the Rohingya crisis that started in 2017, uh, this topic is really an important one still now. So can you please tell what's the actual situation of this crisis right now?
Well, around 2 weeks back, we heard the news of the first Bangladeshi dying inside the Rohingya camp, or first Rohingya dying inside the Bangladesh Rohingya camp. So we already understand that the virus has spread within the camps, within the refugee camps in Cox's Bazar, and few days back, I was reading an article which stated that there were more than 15,000 Rohingya refugees who were quarantined and isolated. So today, we do not actually know the proper information as of today, but however, it is certainly more than 15,000. So it's quite clear that the situation is not good at all. However, it is going to a worse situation right now. So the danger that we are having, or the possible danger that we have within the Rohingya refugee camp, is very high.
So how do you think that this pandemic will affect the Rohingya crisis? Because already today Bangladesh has crossed a total of 1 lakh COVID-19 affected patients. So do you think that if somehow COVID-19 spreads in the Rohingya camps, it will be really hard for us to deal with it?
Okay, so as we understand that, you see, within the Rohingya refugee camps, or any refugee camp, the accommodations, or people, the population density within that area is small space with a lot of people clustered in it. So the spread of virus is going to be very fast, um, if not taken care of properly. So the possible danger is actually very high. Now, understanding that all the NGOs and the international organizations working within the camps, it is actually on them. They have a huge responsibility to ensure that this does not go to. This does not worsen. But however, if God forbids it happens, then we will be seeing a lot of, I mean, a huge number of deaths, which is going to be very bad for the current Rohingya situation, because as we understand that these people are stateless, they do not have a state which will own them as their citizens. And on top of this pandemic is going to, we are talking about around like hundreds of thousands of lives, right? So we are talking about people who do not even get their basic human rights, and on top of this pandemic, So I just cannot imagine the situation that they can go through or they are going through right now. I was reading an article last night about I forgot the source of that article, but they basically did a survey on the children of the within the Rohingya refugee camp, and most of them are in fear of being infected or dying with it, or I mean, which was, I mean, what was sad is like these children, they're still thinking about their education and the scopes of learning, and they fear that if this pandemic hits, which it already did, and if it worsens, then they will lose their opportunity of education and the basic life, human rights that they have. So all in all, the situation is going to be very, very bad if not taken care of properly. I mean, very soon.
It will surely be a dangerous thing if we are not being able to stop the COVID-19 spread there. So I would like to state you one incident which took place back in 2018. There was a specific incident called Indian Massacre. So Indian is a place in Myanmar. In 2018, some Myanmar military people had killed some Rohingyas there, and immediately after that Rohingyas were killed, the Myanmar government had arrested those Myanmar militaries who were involved in killing the Rohingyas in Indian place. So, do you think that it was a step by the Myanmar government to cover up their genocide which they were doing in the Rakhine state?
Well, it is actually tough to understand what the Myanmar government thinks or how they think at times, because their actions are very absurd to a regular, to a normal-minded person. Because if we see from the very beginning, or the historical causes that led to this Rohingya refugee situation, it's like genocide has been happening for a long time now, right? So, and they have always been denying it in the international communities. So, one or two small, you know, good work will not make them a hero, and it will never make them a hero. What they have done has impacted the entire world. We're talking about the biggest refugee crisis of the world. Like the international community has been charging them over a long time now, more than 3 years right now, and they're still denying. And I mean, their actions say that they do not want it to solve anytime soon. So, however you put it, whether they wanted to hide it or not, the main fact is they did it and they're doing it, and they will keep on doing it if the rest of the nation or the United Nation does not take a strong step against them. So what should have been done would have been like a sanction or embargo put on them, but the international community is not doing it properly. We fear that there is no way. At least to me, I do not see in any time in the future that they will be taking their people back, the Rohingya people back, and rehabilitate them or repatriatize them. I don't think they're ever going to do that.
So this reminds me of another question. Sir, almost every country is supporting Bangladesh in taking the Rohingyas, and they're also supporting that we are asking the, Myanmar to take the Rohingyas back. But China and Russia, though they're like really friendly nations with Bangladesh, but still in a United Nations Security Council session where a topic was raised regarding this Rohingya crisis, China and Russia had vetoed the resolution and supported Myanmar. So, do you think that anyhow there will be anything that China and Russia might support Bangladesh in taking back the Rohingyas instead of supporting the Myanmar government?
Well, I mean, in any event, there is a very popular saying that foreign policy is a very volatile thing. You know, it keeps on changing every now and then. So, China and Russia, what they did with Bangladesh is not very surprising, because, I mean, if you understand that they also have incentives. We the relationship that Bangladesh has with China in terms of economy, in terms of trade, is different from the exact um, as the exact what would I say? I mean, for the Rohingya refugee crisis, it's different, right? It has a different dimension to it. So the international relationship varies from one issue to the other. Since neither of the governments, Bangladesh or China or Russia, neither of the governments want to, mix this relationship up. So it's only understandable that China and Russia are supporting Myanmar because Myanmar and China have a a long historic trade relationship. So they cannot just overlook that trade relationship, right? So what China and Russia want to do is basically, um, want to have a better, want to keep on having good relationship with both the countries.
We'll be ending this episode with one last question. So you said that you don't think that the Myanmar government will take back the Rohingyas and we might need to keep them in Bangladesh. But sir, do you think it's actually possible for us to keep like almost over 1 million Rohingyas in our country? Because Bangladesh is already a overpopulated country and it's already being hard for giving employments for everyone, especially due to this pandemic. A lot of people are losing their job. So will it be possible for Bangladesh to keep all these Rohingyas?
If we see how the other refugee crises have ended, I mean, only a small portion of the Rohingyas are repatriatized or rehabilitated into other nations. But most of the Rohingyas or most of the refugees end up within the camps. Even now, still now, we see Palestinian refugees, we see Libyan refugees, we see Syrian refugees. They're wandering around. So the possibility or the I mean, if we want to actually rehabilitate all the 1 million, more than 1 million refugees of in the Rohingya crisis, it will take years, 10, 15, 20 years, and it's a slow and gradual process. It depends a lot on what the Myanmar government does, whether they want to repatriatize. I mean, they have said that they want to repatriatize, but the speed at which they're doing it is very, very slow. They should, I mean, if they were to do it, they would have done it much faster. That is what I believe, at least. So, ultimate fate, I mean, even within the country, within Bangladesh, if we see that we have the Bihari refugees, uh,
Yeah.
the freedom, I mean, the 1971 refugees, right? They are still stateless within the country and within the capital, and they're still not given their rights by the own government of our country, right? So these are, I mean, if an issue that is around 50 years old is not yet solved, so I do not see how Bangladesh is going to solve it solely in the next 50 years for the Rohingya refugees. However, I mean, it all depends on what the international community has to support and how much the Myanmar government has to take back. It all depends on that.
That's pretty much it for the show, and we hope this Rohingya crisis gets solved. And thank you very much for joining us with the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for taking such a wonderful initiative. Well, good luck with that, and hope you succeed with your